Hi, sorry it's taken me a while to get this video done. It was supposed to take a week and it's actually ended up taking more like 5 or 6 weeks. Apologies for that, I've been ill, that's my excuse, and now I'm all better. So I'm back to talk to you about game audio and specifically Prison Architect, and even more specifically what I did with the audio for part of the user interface. In fact, let's look at it here. I'm talking about these buttons that I'm hovering my mouse over here. They're always present in the game, and when I roll my mouse across them slowly, you can hear the sounds of paper rustling. Now, I wonder if we should do something about the ones that are locked. Should you still hear them? We'll come to that. But for now, here you go. Now, why have I done this? Well, the game is called Prison Architect, and I wanted to set the atmosphere of an old-fashioned architect's office. And in my imagination, in my mind's eye, when I think about an old-fashioned architect's office, I imagine tables and desks and reams and reams of paper. When I was a teenager, I had a temporary job working for the county planning office, and they had these huge, great big open plan offices, like vast areas of desks and people drawing things and doing stuff. There were computers around, but there weren't really that many. Anyway, what I remember is the paper. So I thought I would put an aspect of that into here. And the cool thing about this is I've made goodness knows how many tiny little recordings of paper rustling, some of which you just heard, and the game basically reassembles these at random. So if I keep doing this, if you have a keen ear, you probably will pick out the odd duplication, but unless you're listening for it, you can't really hear it. I mean, I am listening for it and I still can't really hear it. But the cool thing about this is I can go really fast, and it actually sounds like somebody scrambling about for a piece of paper, or I can go really slow, and it kind of reflects a calm, orderly, determined, here's the piece of paper I want, and there it is. And when you click on it, then it takes you into another menu, and you get the similar thing. Okay, so far so good. Now, there's nothing particularly remarkable about that, apart from the fact it's setting an atmosphere. But what is really cool about this is what happens to those sounds when the narrative in the game changes. And we're going to look at that now. What I'm about to show you is a prison I've designed to malfunction. I've done this on purpose, so that I can demonstrate what happens to the button sounds. Let's take a look. But what happened there very quickly was the paper sounds morphed into the sounds of jailers' keys. That's because there's all manner of nasties going on in this little prison. Now, when I click on one of these, that sound has changed as well. It's much more heavy, metallic, related to prison doors. And we have the sound of the jailer's keys. Now I have to sit and wait. Eventually, when this calms down, so you can hear the transition. There it is. Did you hear that? It's basically transitioned back to the paper sounds. As have the button click sounds. Although there's a hint. If you listen carefully, there is a hint of the heavier sound still there. And that's because the prison hasn't totally calmed down yet. That's awesome. Right. Anyway, cut to the chase. Eventually, it would go completely back to the paper sounds and the ordinary button click sounds. So let's have a look at what's this all about. You know, why have I bothered to put this in the game? So why have I bothered to do this with the user interface sounds? Actually make them change state, actually make the sounds change depending on what's going on in the game. Well, it's actually very simple. The game's called Prison Architect. We've already reflected the architect aspect of the title, and now I wanted to reflect the prison aspect of the title. The idea that you've become a jailer. You've changed from being an architect that's been designing this prison and building it and seeing it being constructed, etc. But things have gone wrong in your prison, and actually now, you know, you're a jailer, you're a prisoner, and you need to realise that. That needs to be reflected through the sound. Now, I'm not suggesting that everybody would actually notice this change going on, these changes going on in the sounds during gameplay, and that's great. I think that's fantastic if they don't consciously notice it. What I think is really cool is if the changes in these sounds are basically feeding little bits of information, and when I say information, I just mean they're almost kind of like whispering in your ear. You know, the atmosphere, the vibe has changed, and look, that's probably a result of your actions as the architect. Things have gone wrong, so the sound design is basically reflecting, hey, you know, something's changed, something's happened. Whether you consciously notice it or not really doesn't matter. What really matters is how you feel as a player, and if the sound can influence that even on a very subtle level, then I happen to think that's a really cool thing. Now, I did go one step further with this. I don't know if any of you that have been playing the alpha have noticed this or not, but there's another aspect to the sound design that changes, and it's the tape measure sounds. And let's take a quick look at those now, because I appreciate I am waffling on rather a lot at the moment. I will try to waffle less. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so here's a prison in full flow, as it were, and I'm just going to draw out some areas on the ground. And what you're hearing is the sound of a metal tape measure opening and closing and measuring things out. And the further you zoom out, the more obvious the sound is, and it kind of blends into the background as you zoom in. Okay, so now let's take a look at what happens when bad things happen in the prison again, and see what happens to that sound. And as you can hear there, there's the sounds of nails scratching down the blackboard in the background. And the worse the situation in the prison, the more you hear it. But as the situation gets better, it changes back to the normal tape measure sounds. Although, not quite yet. The idea behind it is really that, you know, if you're still trying to carry on being an architect at a time like this, it's not a good idea. The prison is unhappy, the prison is in pain, if you like, and the sound design kind of allows you to feel a little bit of, metaphorically speaking, a little bit of the prison's pain. Because really what you should be doing is other stuff to do with calming the situation down, more strategic stuff to do with your guards, emergency services, etc. I was rather hoping I'd be able to show you the transition back to normality, but as you can hear from the buttons... Oh, hang on. What have we got here? Ah, there we go. We're back to the tape measure sounds. It's okay to be an architect again. It's early, well, reasonably early days with the nail scratching down the blackboard. Still a bit undecided as to whether I could maybe come up with something a bit more subtle. It is rather in your face, but then again, it's only supposed to happen infrequently. At the end of the day, you don't want a prison that's having lots and lots of bad things happening all the time. So maybe it serves its purpose as it is. Watch this space, and we'll see if we make any changes. The keen-eyed amongst you may have spotted that I was delving into my development build for a couple of the screencasts there. That's because there's a little bit of a bug in the Alpha 7 with the tape measure sounds. They're not quite working as they should be, so I had to blur out some areas of the screen which relate to things which aren't yet publicly released, probably coming up in the next Alpha. Please don't ask me any questions about that until they've come out, because I won't be able to answer them. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I did have an extra helping of waffling going on, but that's just me. I'll try and come up with something interesting to talk to you about soon, and I hopefully won't take as long to make the next video as I did with the last one. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.